Good afternoon and welcome to MRSI's Wednesday's webinar season 8. Next slide, please, Sandesh. Quickly, a little bit about the MRSI. Established in 1988, it's a unique not-for-profit association of providers and buyers of research and insights. With a board of directors spanning various sectors in industry, it strives to create awareness of the industry among public at large and as well as the government, establish and promote professional standards, and create platforms where professionals can engage and showcase their work and collaborate on common issues. The Wednesday webinar is one such professional forum where we bring to you the best and cutting edge of work that's defining MR. And there's one such topic coming up for all of us today. Next slide, please. Your webinar committee and session hosts are Amitabh Mishra, Head Insights and Analytics India at Dr. Reddy's Laboratories, Sivakumar Somanathan, Consumer Behavior Consultant and the driver behind Curious Cat Consulting. I'm your moderator for the session today, Sundar Muthuraman. I'm an independent consultant helping marketers in their marketing measurement and analytics space. A good afternoon to you all again. Today we have a very experienced lineup of panelists for you. We have Vara Prasad, Vice President, Head of Insights and Analytics at ITC Foods, and Krishnendu Dutta, Practice Lead, Innovation, Understanding and Client Advisory from Ipsos, India. Welcome, Vara. Welcome, Krishnendu. I'm sure, welcome again. I'm sure our webinar participants are eager to understand how AI is redefining what we do in MR. So without further ado, over to you guys. And Sandesh, you can flip to the next slide, please. Just before you start, a bit of housekeeping announcements. The topic today, of course, is the future is AI. Revolutionizing Market Research for Tomorrow's Insights. Those of you who are joining us for the first time, you can put in your questions in the questions dialog box in your GoToWebinar screen. We will bring that up at an appropriate time to our panelists today, later on in the presentation. This session is recorded and will be available at the MRSI website in case you're dialing off or you want your colleagues and friends to take a look. Please share the word around. Over to you, Krishnendu and Vara. Tell us about how AI is defining or creating a new future for marketing research.
Yeah. Thank you, Sundar. Thanks for the introduction. Sandesh, you can flip to the next slide. Broadly, we will be covering the following. We will be following the following this flow. Conventional approaches and methods in MR, and what are the kind of approaches that we take, and what is the journey around AI, and how is AI evolving is the second section. Then we talk about use cases in AI in MR, which will be primarily spoken out by KD, followed by me, and then there are watchouts, and then there are some questions that we would be addressing towards the end, which Sundar will be starting on. So moving to the next important aspect, what is the conventional approaches and methods in MR? So we need to just take a step back and see what is the work all about, and therefore the AI applications and how is AI evolving and where is the applicability coming into the play. So move on to the next slide. So basically here, broadly, every organization, be it a agency partner or being at the client side, you will find the broad three buckets that we would work upon. One is exploration, second is evaluation, third one is performance measurement. Exploration encompasses all these things. Primarily anyone who is attending these kind of sessions, they all know these kind of things, whether it is brand positioning, exploring a new category, addressing or trying to understand anything which is an issue. A sale is down in one region, a brand is not performing in one region, so on and so forth, and exploring a target group, be it a homemaker, be it a youth, be it golden ages, be it children, and then there is trend spotting, and then consumer co-creation. These all come under this bucket of exploration because you are trying to explore and understand this fundamentally. Evaluation is nothing but based on that exploration, you do create something for the business and you need to seek that response from the consumer saying that whether it is being designed properly, not designed properly, any optimization required. So be it idea, concept, product, pack, full mix, everything comes under evaluation. And then the performance measurement is nothing but essentially anything that once put into the market, how is it performing? You can talk about brand health, you can talk about spends, you can talk about retail measurements. All these things will come under the performance measurement. Now moving on to the next slide. So basically, but all these are encompassed with certain key tenets of a project flow. Each of the things that I have spoken in the previous slide. You define objectives, you create research designs, you prepare instruments, you collect the data, you analyze the data, you create reports which are trying to give direction to the business or solving the business question that we have started off with. Now this entire thing, moving on to the next slide, involves three important difficulties. One is they are somewhat complex, they can be human and effort intensive, they are also time intensive, and they are also sometimes tedious because there is a lot of repetition in the way we go about working these aspects. So these are typical challenges that we always say. Therefore, in MR, you will find there is a little bit of more amount of time that we tend to spend, and our working hours are a little laborious because all these aspects are somewhat complex, and they are tedious, they are effort intensive, they are time intensive. Now imagine if this particular thing, into the next slide, Sandesh, see, with the AI coming into the play, let us say there is a lot of efficiency that can be brought into the play. How can it happen? It can happen wherein the qualitative transcripts and the quantitative data can be analyzed together. Let us say the questionnaire is becoming almost like a conversational flow. It is no more designed saying that Q1, Q2 with routing and all that stuff. Let us say it is happening in a very natural conversational flow. And these natural conversations is what is available and which can be easily analyzed, which was otherwise a very laborious process is being done. So this is a new world that is likely to come into existence very soon. It is already happening in some form or the other, but this is the world that we will get into because all this information can be very easily processed with the help of AI and ML algorithms. Moving into the next section. So now I will also talk about, now that is where MR is, right? The market research or consumer insighting process, typically all encompassing those things are. Now let us see how is AI evolving. Now, if you go to the next slide, so there are two fundamental aspects of AI. AI is evolving. AI is not new. AI has been there in existence since 1930s in some research journals, and official documentation starts happening from 1950s, then 1980s, 2010 to 2020. Now we are in a completely most evolved world of AI. Now, how did it start? If you understand saying that it started in 1950s, the first test happened, which is called Turing test, which is nothing but whether a machine can distinguish between the way the machine is conversing versus a human is conversing. That is the starting point. And the more closer it is, the more deviant it is the first test that is being done in 1950s. Subsequently, in 1980s, there are basically what it did is saying that there are models which has harnessed a lot of past data and came up with some patterns and predictions of the future. So that is our second evolution that has happened. The third evolution happened where the machine learning models are just behaving almost like the way our human or our brains work. Basically, that is what unsupervised learning is all about and ML is all about. And that is the first inception happened in 2010 in a manner of speaking. Then if you are looking at 2020s, generative AIs have come into the play. They are creating authentic original content based on the historic data, based on the trainings that we are providing, based on the domain knowledge that we are passing. So it is now at that stage. So at the backdrop of these things, why is this? If you look at the evolution, it took 1950 to 30 years, and then 1980, another 30 years. Then we are talking about 10 years. One, the computational powers have increased at a very phenomenal pace. Now, in every 6 months since 2010, the computational power is doubling. So that is the reason why you will find the graph points on the right-hand side, where the computational power between 2010 to 2025 is very cluttered. It is because it's almost like it's currently as powerful as 100 septillion. It is very powerful in terms of the computational powers that we are having. Now that is enabling us to do a lot of things. Move on to the next slide, please. So this evolution, therefore, with computational power increasing at a very rapid pace, and you are also having AI models improving on one hand, it is primarily continuously evolving into a narrow AI versus a general strong AI versus a very super intelligent AI. What do you mean by that? It is a very simple thing, saying that earlier I used to have a customer service executive who speaks and takes the call and he responses in certain standard things. Now that is being led by a bot. It started like that, and it is current capacity. Currently it is happening everywhere. Almost the customer care executives are being replaced with bots, and with some recommendation system coming into the play. The next evolution has happened wherein it is dealing with a lot of data. It is reasoning out. Now the conversation is prefixed in the chatbots. Now the conversations are evolving as the response is coming from the consumer. The bots are evolving and reasoning it out with the consumer in terms of what is the pain point and how it is going to happen, so on and so forth. The next one will be much more advanced evolution that you will be finding, that they can drive innovation, they can personalize a lot of things, and more to watch, though it is out of the context. Not only in MR, you will find a lot of applications happening in biotechnology, in the field of medicine and all that stuff. It will get into a very, it will just need a drop of one cell of yours, and it can really tell anything and everything about you. So it moves into that phases, and it is continuously evolving. If you look at a timeline, we are at the current capacity where we are having bots. The reasoning bots have already come into the existence. They will evolve even more powerfully than what we are experiencing currently. And then in the less than 5 years, I think we would be moving to the super intelligence phases of these particular things. Move on to the next slide, Sandesh. So basically, this is evolution. But what is the capability about? The capability is all about there are different aspects in which the AI is evolving. It is very seamlessly analyzing facial recognition. It is seamlessly talking about research solutions. It is seamlessly analyzing speech analysis, text analytics, natural language, image and video. There are deep learnings. There are conversational solutions that are happening. These are the different facets that AI is already solving for. And some things that I have marked in light blue color are essentially very direct use cases for in consumer insighting process to happen. Now, with these capabilities coming into the existence, what happens is, please move on to the next slide. Therefore, what happens? These are all now tools. Now, for everything, you take a text analytics, you have a bunch of tools. You take video analytics, you have a bunch of tools. You want synthetic data to be worked upon, there you have a bunch of tools. You want to understand social competitor trend analysis, you have a bunch of tools. So right now we are at that phase where there is AI evolution, there is computation which is raising at a very high level. There are certain buckets of problems which involves huge data, where there are toolkits that are available for you to handle that. So be it text analytics, speech analytics, voice recognition, image recognition, this is where we are. So we have tool for everything. So in a day, you will if you are on the any side, be it on the agency side, be it on the manufacturing side, you will find that on the marketing side, you will find for everything there is a toolkit, and you will be bombarded with tools, and you have to be very on top of things to understand these tools and choose those tools that you are going to be working upon. Move on to the next slide. So now we will talk about use cases of AI in MR in this context. So we have the exploration, evaluation, performance tracking. We know what AI is evolving into and what are the kind of problems that it is solving for. Now, closer to home, how is it solving the use cases in MR? Krishnendu will talk about those things, and towards the end, I will join back. Yeah.
Thank you, Vara. So, trust my voice is audible. Vara, quick check.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, from an agency partner perspective, how are we approaching, this entire exciting, evolving world of AI? So when Vara was one of his last slides, and he was showing you that bunch of solutions and toolkits which are already available. Uh, One of the things which I sense many of you would have gone through when he was on that slide is a sense of being overwhelmed. Okay. Now, when we want our researchers to experiment, to play around with the growing power of AI, we don't want them to be overwhelmed. So what have we done? We have launched our own sandbox. It's called Facto, and we encourage sort of our researchers to experiment with it, play around with it, learn from it, use it in their everyday lives. So what Facto allows us to do is that it has democratized generative AI in the daily lives of all our employees. It is creating efficiencies by allowing them to transcribe, code, do theme extraction, translate, generate top lines, even generate ideas and sort of creative next steps and so on and so forth. It is allowing our product developers and our solution teams to create impactful new products and solutions which are client facing. Yeah, next slide, please. Now it's meant for, like I said, it's a fantastic sort of platform which encourages, which has brought efficiency to the lives of our researchers. It has encouraged them to experiment and be creative. And on the other hand, it has enabled our solution creators to create solutions which are impactful uh, for our clients. So essentially, it allows researchers and developers to be in this secure sort of environment and at the same time harness the full capability of AI, some of which Vara was talking about, a few slides back. So it gives, again, in a very secure environment, access to several general models which are available in the marketplace. And because it is controlled by expert researchers themselves, it allows researchers to guard against some of the risks that AI brings to the table, along with the great power that it brings to the table. So yeah, so whether it be Gemini or Chat GPT or Claude or Mistral, all the most powerful general AI technologies which are out there, uh, we have created our own application to allow researchers to harness the capabilities that these general purpose technologies bring to the table without being lost, without being overwhelmed, and staying within a very secure environment. So moving on, Sandesh. So before we jump into the kind of solutions that we are looking at creating, especially client-facing solutions that we are creating, let's look at a kind of a solution matrix, that we are working with to develop these tools and solutions. So over here, I would like to talk a little bit about the different types of AI. So analytical AI or computational AI is something which has been with us for some time, at least about a decade or so, or a little bit more than that. And it allows us to develop solutions which are agile, which are predictive. Even fairly regularly used solutions can be powerful and predictive. It uses natural language processing and machine learning as the key sort of levers which run the engine. Then, of course, as Vara spoke about, the 2020s has brought sort of generative AI into our lives. Now, generative AI is extremely powerful. It is extremely exciting. So what are we doing with generative AI in the world of market research? We are fine tuning, like I said, we are fine tuning this very general purpose models with fresh domain specific consumer data, right? So it's imagine generative AI as an extremely bright, uh, you know, uh, graduate, extremely capable, very well trained in terms of language, logic, basics, math skills, and so on and so forth. But what do we need to do when such a when such a colleague enters our teams? What do we typically do? We give them domain specific training, right? We tell them what market research is about, and we go a step further. We tell them what is the specific domain of market research that she is going to work in. Is she going to work in innovation testing or creative testing or brand tracking and so on? And we kind of train them. So we harness that brilliant mind, and we then start training them into the with domain specificity. That is exactly what we are doing with generative AI models. We take that huge power of logic, of language, and of generation, and so on and so forth, and we give them domain specific training with fresh data, with databases, with our decades of know how, etc. And we use that to classify, to curate, and to generate assets or content. And on the last two blocks on the right hand side of the slide, we've got the two most exciting sort of developments in the field of AI and MR, which is one is synthetic samples and audiences, and the other one is agentic AI. And this is something which is slowly taking on, and it's going to emerge exponentially very soon. Synthetic samples, of course, allow us to amplify efficiency and coverage of survey data. We will talk about it a little bit more in the next few slides, but it also allows us to prolong the life of regular survey research data. How, we will talk about it. And then, of course, agentic AI. Agentic AI is a very, very powerful force, not just in MR, it's going to influence a lot of other marketing service domains like media planning, creative generation, and so on and so forth. We are also using agentic AI to increase the actionability and life of our research outcomes. Yeah, moving on, Sandesh. So let's look at how some of these solutions are evolving at Ipsos. Example one is example of creating NPD assets which can then be further tested. So like I said, your off-the-shelf general AI models, they get very, very specific training, on-the-job training. In the world of AI, we call it fine-tuning, right? So you take a very, very smart model and you train it with the domain learnings that you have on the specific thing. And in this case, it is within the domain of innovation. So you include authentic consumer experiences with fresh and purposeful data to compensate the generic AI training data. Then you inject the vast domain knowledge, right, by training. And it's also distilled in the prompt engineering that you do. Prompt engineering is slowly becoming one of the biggest, expert oriented tasks. Whenever you take general purpose AI and look at that to inform very, very specific fields like MR. And then, of course, you find and train the general AI models with very, very specific data. So AI learns about success and failure from databases and limitless case studies and so on. What is the advantage? What you're doing is you're crashing months of NPD development cycles to a matter of days. And you are allowing your client partners to move into the market for further testing or even launching with much greater confidence. Moving on, Sandesh. Yeah, so these are some examples. I'm not going to spend too much of time on these, but these are the kind of assets that we can generate. Now, just think about it. I'm guessing that most of the attendees today are from the market research industry, either from the client side or from the agency partner side. But just think about what AI is allowing you to do. AI is allowing you to move beyond just testing and reporting. AI is now actually allowing you to partner with your clients to generate the assets which used to be the domain of brand managers and creative agencies and so on and so forth earlier. So that's the amazing power of AI. And if you do it well with by harnessing your domain knowledge in this specific sphere of MR, then you can allow the client to move forward with a lot of confidence without waiting for weeks and months and sometimes even years to fulfill a particular stage in innovation development. Moving on. The second example that I have is actually using agentic AI to give sort of life to segments of personas which you may have identified in primary survey research. So think about a typical use case would be like a segmentation project, and you have closed your client with your client partner, that there are some 5 or 6 segments that the organization would like to activate, right? Now you create agents which are lookalike of these personas. So instead of that 1 or 2 slides which used to have those segment personas, and they used to be static, now you have these as dynamic assets which you can leave behind, on your client servers, and they communicate with stakeholders who are going to use the output of that segmentation study to answer their questions, to iterate with them in generating ideas, to allow them to get some very quick responses to maybe competitive launches. So they're really limitless opportunities. And one of the most powerful things around this is that stakeholders can actually converse with personas, either like individually or as in a group, and converse in natural language, as if almost, there's one person talking to another person. So forget the day when, you had to understand how to read a research output, and have that technical capability. With the power of AI, now you're creating something which allows every stakeholder, relevant stakeholder, to use the outcome of your primary research far more efficiently and for a longer period of time. Moving on. This is an example from the world of creative testing, where you use a blend of analytical and generative AI to test advertising stimulus without surveys. Now, we have had within the sphere of creative testing, we have had only analytical AI models with us for some time now, which basically, process the ad through AI, through a particular machine learning algorithm, and gave you some outcomes. But what is really exciting for me today is that when you add generative AI to this, you don't just get your, creative testing KPIs and key outcomes of, scores and so on. Generative AI can actually also generate how a human is likely to respond to the features of that ad. What kind of emotions is it likely to generate? How is the human likely to describe the ad when talking about it to her friends and his friends and so on and so forth? So that's the real value add that generative AI has brought into the world of creative testing. Moving on. And of course, synthetic data. It is like hitting us like an avalanche already, and it's probably going to just get more and more bigger and more powerful. As many of you may know, synthetic data refers to artificially generated data. It is generated by a machine learning algorithm or by AI that learns to replicate patterns found in real data. Now, we have been using synthetic data for over a decade now, but with the computational power and with the developments in AI, it's just going to become much more powerful and pervasive. Moving on. Now, let's think about what kind of synthetic data use cases you can have. So right in the beginning is data augmentation, where you have some data sets which are of real data, of real surveys or observations and so on. Here you augment that actual small sample data to a much larger data set using synthetic data, using techniques called augmentation. Then there is imputation or fusion, where you use machine learning to fill in missing information and combine incomplete data sets to create larger, more complete new data sets. This is called data imputation or fusion. Then agents and persona bots is something which I spoke about. Imagine giving that dynamic extension to one of your primary surveys, and where it lives, with the stakeholders who are using the results of that, survey for a much longer period of time, and in a dynamic and in a natural language environment. And then, of course, full synthetic data, which is utilizing entirely artificial samples made up of synthetic respondents. It's almost like an army of agents or an army of bots that you have created and who are actually participating and giving responses to different types of queries or questions. Moving on. Just a little bit techie on this particular slide. This is one of the ways of using data augmentation. Yeah, this uses a protocol known as GAN, or generative adversarial networks. Okay, so you've got two AI engines over here. One is known as the generator, which keeps on generating synthetic data, which a bit like creating lab diamonds, which are supposed to replicate the characteristics of real diamonds. So it keeps generating synthetic data, which is supposed to be look-alike and mirrors of real data. And then you have the discriminator. Now these two play a game. The generator keeps on generating synthetic data, which is to look more and more alike to real data, and the discriminator has to keep testing and checking if the synthetic data is call out the synthetic data is different from the real data. Very, very similar to the Turing test principles which Vara spoke about a few slides back. Now this loop kind of goes on for a period of time till the generator is able to generate data which is such a strong lookalike of real data that the discriminator can no longer discriminate between the two data sets, right? So basically, over a period of time, the generator gets better at creating synthetic data, the discriminator gets better at identifying differences, and finally it concludes when the discriminator can no longer discriminate. And that's the data set which you can work with. Yeah, moving on. Yeah, so I'll just hand it over to Vara for a few minutes now to look at a few use cases for ITC.
So those were the MR consumer inciting process use cases from an agency's view, or from a user view. How it looks like is what I will be taking you through. So again, we have seen the process, and we have seen different capabilities that AI is demonstrating and evolving continuously, be it text to speech, multimodal language processing, NLPs, predictive, all these things are there. Now, how are we trying to incorporate them in the way we are dealing with our day-to-day work? Move on to the next slide. So first use case I would talk about is saying that earlier, what used to happen is for any category that you want to explore upon, you used to do immersions, you go meet consumers, you do some qualitative understanding. You figure out certain aspects about the consumer and then come up with some hypotheses, some spaces, so on and so forth. That entire process is now shifted onto something which we do at our center called Sixth Sense, which is about looking at all the data that is available in the public domain. So that initial exploration process is a process which is completely in-house, because there is a reams and reams of data that is available in the market, which consumers are talking about. There are conversations, there are videos being posted, there are GIFs being posted, there are pictures being posted on that. So how do we do it? So we look at, you can say a simple starting point is Google search, a set of keywords. You look at those keywords and see how it is trending. That is the what part of it. And then when are they having? So if you look at ream the entire data and classify the content of the post based on the time of the day or based on the kind of items that they are eating, you will get a very clear pattern in terms of what is being had for breakfast, what is being had for lunch, what is being had for evening snacks, what is being had for dinner, because there is a time angle, there is a conversation angle, there is a picture angle. All these three things being put together, you will be able to say that, okay, this is being had at this time. So it is giving me when. Moving on to the next slide. So what and when we understood, then we also know consumers are also commenting why they are having that particular thing. Let us say this example being protein. We are doing it for the muscle strength, we are doing for weight management, we are doing for energy, we are doing for kids growth. There are different conversations. The moment you take all the bucket of conversations and classify them, you will understand the why part of it. Then we also have certain ways of figuring out. It's not very direct, but there is an indirect way of figuring it out, saying that whether these conversations are happening done by, well, how is it changing depending on the life stage, be it in terms of functional needs, emotional needs, behavioral things, and any other challenges that they are talking about. So be it a homemaker, be it a millennial, be it a Gen Z, be it an adult, you can look at all these things and figure out saying that where these differences are happening. So therefore, it also gives you a who part. Now at ITC, this particular thing of initial exploration has completely came in-house. Now we have a very clear and a very precise starting point to explore any category, further deep dive into it, ask precise questions, and then construct a very focused research to understand how to do a category exploration. Move on to the next slide. So there is another, that is one use case. So now you see, now in doing all those things, I'm using different techniques and different I'm analyzing text, I'm analyzing picture, I'm analyzing videos, I'm analyzing the different cohorts, how they are speaking about. Now we also have another source of data, which is our customer care data. The customer care data, on an average in a day, we get around 300 to 500 calls. Now, if these are 500 calls and someone is taking the pain of calling the customer care and trying to ask for a question, talk about a brand, make a complaint sometimes, give a feedback sometimes, and get a clarification sometimes. Now, this data is all captured in the audio files, and we don't have any means to analyze that audio file in a very easier manner in the previous era. Now that entire data, if you put through an text analytics engines, they can convert the speech into text, and then they can convert it into a sentiment, which is what you are seeing on the right hand side of the of this chart, and where we clearly say that, okay, what is being talked about, what is being talked about positively, negatively, and all that stuff. And this is another use case of some of the AI capabilities that can be brought in-house, which otherwise the data is sitting like a on the servers and we are not utilizing, but we are now getting a lot of information around that, around the brand and the kind of consumer pain points or the feedback that we are getting around our products. The third use case, the next slide, please, Sandesh. Now, in the first part, we talked about trends and the in-house category exploration part. Now, I set up different topics and I can create a complete understanding of how is it trending, whether it is growing or not, what kind of conversations are happening, what is the engagement rate. Now you name a topic, I can create a topic and pull the entire social conversations which are publicly available within a time period and across the time period. Of course, there are some limitations. You can't go beyond 3 years, because then the volume of data becomes very huge to analyze and all that stuff. And you can constantly track these trends and say that whether they are growing, not growing, at what stage of evolution. We, after looking at our own topics and the topics of interest for our foods business, we have created a model for ourselves saying that these are all emerging, these are growing, these are mainstream, these are vacillating. Sometimes a trend can be unpredictable. It moves between different buckets. And then finally, we arrived at some themes that are emerging based on the conversations, which are around protein, gut health, and pan-Asia, and the business is taking forward all of those things in some form or the other. So the moving on to the next slide, that is the third use case. The fourth use case is saying that basically it's influencing the, because I have no trends. Now earlier what used to happen is saying that it's the PDs and marketing's prerogative to define, saying that, okay, work upon this area, work upon protein, work upon gut health. Now there is obviously there is some intelligence, some market knowledge, some things coming from manufacturing capability. All those things are coming, and then you are taking some prerogatives in terms of why, how do you want to take the brand forward. Now that entire process, well, now we have streamlined it and we have created an in-house process. So you have explored the category, you know the trends right now, you know where the trend falls currently, whether we should work upon that trend or not. Based on that trend, we even, with using the AI tools, we can create a concept, we can create a pack, and we also know that based on the data, whether it is whether that particular trend is very prevalent in the food service angle, or whether it is prevalent at the retail level, whether it is only brewing at the conversation level and there are no products currently available in the market. Considering all this information, now we can also say that it is a relevant trend, it is a hot trend, whether to be acted upon, not acted upon. this entire NPD of next process has been moved in-house right now, and this is my fourth use case that where we have completely incorporated, and now it becomes a PD charter. Every year and every quarter we can do these things, but things don't move so violently. Sometimes we get some things that we have to act upon. That is the next use case that we are having. Move on to the next slide. This is the most important use case in my view. Every organization, be it a agency, partner, or client, we have a hell lot of data. Now, what is that data? Essentially, forget about consumer for a minute and the different studies that we are doing. We have sales data. Now, on a given month, if I want to understand where am I progressing on the right direction or not, whether it is up or down? This is a common question we always are being asked. Now, then we will have to analyze that data. We have to say, we pull that data. Okay, this market is doing, this product is doing something, this SKU is not working, this competition is playing. This entire data to harness and give a sales report or at least a view saying that what is happening about the business is a very daunting process, and I'm sure that everyone would be experiencing that. Now, because for this you need to harness data sources from multiple platforms, create a common dictionary, then try to analyze and come up with an RCA or a predictability of what is likely to happen. With the AI coming into the play and the tools coming into the very high existence, what is happening is now the AI will detect the anomaly. Okay, sale is down. It is happening in these markets. It is happening for this brand. It is happening for this SKU. And then historically, we have looked at this data. Whenever you have done something of this nature, this is what is happening. So therefore, you can get into. We are at the stage where we have harnessed the data, and now we are in the process of creating the RCA. And now these tools, 3 years back, 4 years back was this requirement, and there were not many tools who were even ready to take up this project because it's a huge amount of data. We are talking about some 1,000, 2,000 SKUs at foods division itself. So this itself is a very clear dashboarding to predicting to prescribing what to do next is the zone that we are getting into. Move on to the next slide. So, but while these are some interesting things both from an agency side and this side that are happening, there are some watchouts, and Sundar can come in. You can ask, and KD can describe some of those things, and we can take the questions.
Thanks, Krishnendu. Thanks, Vara. I think that was a compelling, narrative on what's happening using machine learning and vista that's opening up, where AI is going to kind of dramatically alter how we explore data, how we evaluate our questions on marketing problems, and definitely measurement, as you showed us in the last slide, Vara, on the dashboards that are going to become very, very dynamic, right? So, at this stage, let me take a pause and ask our audience to put in their questions. There are quite a few already in there. But if some of you who have questions, just type them into the question dialog box that you have in your GoToWebinar screens. Now, coming back to this question about the power of AI and the risks that we face, obviously, personal information and security is at one end. At the other end, we've read a lot about hallucinations, and those two are, two prominent boxes on this slide. So from the recent past, Vara, from your context, have you faced the context of hallucinations or a context of or question around security and PII, and how did you deal with that? And the same question can pass to Vara.
Yeah. So, KD, you can talk about it. Maybe I'll start and then see.
Sure.
This first of all, some basics have to be in place in terms of PII security. They are being masked, they are being encrypted, they are being decrypted. What we are currently, the tools are capable of, and the use cases are revolving around publicly available information. We are not dealing with, at least the capabilities currently that are existing and that the use cases are, we are not dealing with PII at all. Because I'm not talking about respondent level data. I'm not talking about consumer mobile number. I'm not talking about device ID. I'm not talking anything about it. There is Facebook, there is Instagram, there is Google, YouTube. There is a lot of OTT information that is publicly available in terms of likes, comments, this thing. So For me, we haven't yet come to that phase where I have to deal with PII data, to be very honest. Maybe those guidelines and all, as a ITC is a very, very careful about those kind of things, and we have not yet ventured into that area. But as far as hallucination is concerned, that, in my view, is saying that when you are dealing with any AI tools, you need to deal with them by providing more and more your context. The more the context it learns, the more it becomes very, otherwise it can go into different directions. But rather than being very wary about using the tools, pata nahi wo, how will it come, what kind of output it will give, kind of a thing, the more you can give the context to it, the more appropriate it is becoming. So hallucination is there definitely, but then our role of adapting AI starts by giving context, and that is very critical, is what I have learned over time. Actually, Krishnendu, you can add on.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. I think see the entire risk, especially around bias, it comes from the fact that I was talking about general purpose models, right? I mean, GPT, which is what probably transformed the generative AI landscape. It stands for general purpose technology, and when we are operating with AI in the world of MR, we have to make it extremely specific. And one part of it is context. The other part of it is what I spoke about, is about fresh data, right? So if you have a very bright kid in the room and you ask that kid a very specific question about housewives in Tamil Nadu and their adoption of packaged food, that person is going to be lost. But because you've asked her a question, she might be prompted to give an answer, and there will be a lot of bias and hallucination in that answer. So obviously I have to feed that context, that this is what the world of the Tamil Nadu housewife looks like. These are what her challenges are. These are her unmet needs. These are her pain points, and so on and so forth. Now tell me. Okay, so that's the way we are handling it, and I think you keep feeding fresh, purposeful data, and you keep bringing in the domain knowledge, and you harness the amazing computational power that AI has. That's how you sort of manage the risk. And Sundar, if you just Sandesh, you just go to, I think, the next slide. Uh, yeah. So basically, there is an evaluation framework. Okay, so whenever you are creating a solution, whenever you are creating an outcome with AI, if you look at it through the lens of truth, transparency, and trust, okay, is it devoid of hallucinations and bias? How can we help for the AI model not to hallucinate or not to be biased? Is it transparent? Can I look inside the model to see where is it fetching from? Where is it retrieving its insights from? And of course, finally, the trust about ethics, fairness, security. How do you treat participant and client data with integrity? And I'm very happy to say that our industry bodies like MRSI and SMR are already issuing very specific guidance about AI. And I think these codes are going to get like fresh updates with very high frequency. Yeah, Sundar.
Sandesh, if you can roll over to the next slide, please.
Yeah, so
Right.
if we want, we can go into specific questions, or I can just quickly talk about this. I think
Please.
I have often been faced with this question, and I'm sure Vara has also been, and many practitioners who are handling, AI and MR and other marketing services, is that are we going to replace humans, right? But on the other hand, while for some humans that may be true, for very repetitive tasks and so on and so forth, some jobs may be replaced. But we are also recognizing that the human has a very important role to play in prompt engineering, in model training, in activating the outputs and taking them to business realities and so on and so forth. So when we were junior researchers, we used to be told that writing a questionnaire or writing a discussion guide is one of the most important skills, which you will keep learning and keep refining over your time. I think very soon writing a prompt is going to be one of the most important skills for any researcher to have. Yeah. So there are certain types of jobs where humans will become more relevant for sure. And it is about harnessing the power of AI and activating it accurately, efficiently, and with the responsibility that we talked about. Yeah.
Yeah, just
We
let's.
can move on.
I have a bunch of questions,
Yeah.
and part of it might touch upon what you will already speak about the future of AI research. Why don't Vara and Krishnendu, you guys just tell us what you had to on this topic, and there are a couple of very interesting questions that the audience have posted, and I'd come back to that.
Sure. So Sandesh, you can just go
Next
to the
slide,
next slide. Yeah. So essentially, I'll just take maybe 10, 20 seconds on this slide. I think the way I see it, the researcher is going to be reinvented. Just like I spoke about questionnaire writing skills to be kind of, evolved to prompt writing skills. The researcher will get the time back in his or her life to rediscover what a researcher's iconic tasks were, right? About discovering that aha consumer insight, about being able to drive the next big business decision for the client. That is something which the researcher is going to sort of reinvent. Data reinvented. I think Vara touched upon this, but from thousands of lines of numbers which we are used to seamless harmonization of natural language and numbers, blending of qualitative and quantitative data, boosted by synthetic data. That's data being reinvented. Work streams being reinvented, which are new skill sets on both client and agency partner side. Chief AI officers, prompt engineers, alongside your classic researchers. Yeah. Vara, you want to just quickly talk about the next slide?
Yeah, move on to the next slide. See, the way, so definitely our skill sets have always demanded for some update, and there will be a little bit of a rapidity in the demand that would be coming our way with AI coming into the play. So we will have to keep trying new things. We should not be because see, earlier whatever help that we were getting from the tools were more to ease out and make us efficient and all that stuff. They were not doing thinking job. They were only helping us in what we are doing. For the first time, we have a new buddy beside us who is helping you to think, or he is making us redundant. So it is going to be a little daunting when you start thinking about it like that, because he is going to make, in some cases, redundant, some cases he will help you, some cases he will outpace you. So that is the kind of an environment that we should get accustomed to. So in a shorter term, definitely everything is going to be tool and appropriating the tool, learning that tool, making the use case out of the tool, and then building the context will be the next level, which is what I talk about it, or at least I see it as the midterm. Because all this generalized data is available on the internet and GPTs are responding, and they respond it in such a nice manner that you feel that is the reality. But you need to beat it, you need to figure it out, you need to give the context, you need to give the enterprise context, because if it is data, I have to give ITC's context, I have to give foods context, I have to give homemaker context. That job is still with us, so it is quite secure to that extent. If you don't give that, the model on its own will do a lot of things, but then we need to provide that context, otherwise we will not be able to guide it to a certain level. In the longer term, I think my agent will be taking a webinar. That is the kind of a thing. So I give the PPT and say that you have to talk like Vara. It will talk exactly like that. He will look like that. He will express me. I will have a digital avatar. He will do. But there will be a lot of authenticity and originality also in that coming into the play. Right now, you will see it like a cartoon character, but there will be a lot of authenticity, a lot of originality, a lot of fresh content being that. But then the agent like Vara have to be trained, that domain, the context, the freshness that KD was talking about, all those things have to be fed, and that is very, very near the corner. The only thing that we need to guard against, two things that I would say is, like, we should not be scared to try tools. We should keep on trying them. We should fail. We should learn. We should outpace them. Otherwise, and the second thing is, so far we have are behaviorally lazy. मतलब ठीक है, बैंक जाने की जरूरत नहीं है. I will do the transfer from my mobile and it is done. Right now, we will be we have to guard against intellectual laziness, because the tools will give you such brilliant outputs. You will feel that that is the end of it. if you don't question it and build the context and really outpace it, the intellectual laziness is the biggest risk that we would be carrying in this evolution process, and therefore we should be at it and we should beat it, and we will beat it. But that's the spirit with which we should go. Otherwise, things in the way they will evolve may not be taking the right direction.
So a couple of quick questions and one observation. The observation first. Vara, in your statement, you moved from referring to this whole context of AI as she, he, and it. So I think we're still figuring out whether it's technology being an it or whether it's a person being a he or a she. It's quite an interesting transition that we are making from tools that enable what we do to tools that will challenge what we do and perhaps augment what we do, right? And there were a bit of questions around what is the future of research, where do surveys fit in, and I'm just making another observation, Vara, before I pass this question to you and then Krishnendu. Is you early on spoke about exploration, evaluation, and measurement as context of marketing research. I think a fair bit of evaluation is no longer necessarily driven by survey instruments, right? And there's like both of you have been pointing out, there's quite a bit of information that we as consumers are voluntarily leaving behind in our digital trail, and we can pick that up. Evaluation, perhaps, Vara, picking on what you just concluded and saying that we can't become intellectually lazy. We have to be able to, as humans, identify, what's, something that's not correct and what is contextually correct. And measurement, you mentioned about dashboards, but I guess that's a space that will continue to evolve. So the question to both of you, what do researchers, how do researchers need to rethink the future? And what are the skills that you would ask young researchers to kind of focus on in the next year or two? Just these two questions, and then we move towards wind up. There are a lot of other questions, Vara and Krishnendu, that have come up, and we would share that with you for your answers. Audience, they will be recorded and hosted on our MRSI website, so you will be able to, we'll make sure that our panelists answer your questions. But just these two questions for quick views from Vara and Krishnendu, and then we go towards wrapping this session for the day. Vara, over to you, and then Krishnendu.
Yeah. So one, researchers, I think we as researchers have one thing in our favor. We have always kept on learning new things. Okay, earlier that learning used to be defined and much more structured, saying that in this new analysis has come, this new technique has come, this new method has come. I think from there we will move to a much more faster paced learning, and we need to adapt very fast. We cannot, while we are at our jobs and what we are doing, we need to also adapt and adopt and adapt. Dono very, very important. If we don't do that, what will happen is saying that we will be lazy and we will be waiting for some shake-up to happen till the next action is taken. So my only, it might sound a little philosophical, but the point is saying that you need to adapt and adapt. If you don't do that, even let us say there are in your organization, there are 200 restrictions to access ChatGPT. Some other things will happen, but we need to be spearheading the thought. We need to understand, we need to invest in ourselves, we need to learn in parallelly. This should happen. Otherwise, we will run the risk of being redundant very soon, because there are a lot of sexy tools, but they will also have their own lifetime, and then again the person's need or an individual's needs will come into the play. But if you want to treat them as partners and that learning and try to go along with it in a nice manner, you need to adopt and adapt. There is no other way. Don't get scared with the tools. They are not going to take any jobs away as long as you are adopting and adapting them. But if you start saying that, okay, it is not for me, maybe there is maybe somewhere else there are some jobs are getting lost and it will not happen to us, I don't think that is a right approach towards this evolution, because this is for the first time in our human existence that our intelligence is being taken over by someone else. It is always our behaviors which were replaced, but now our intelligence will get replaced. So we need to be a little adaptive to that.
Sure. Thanks for that word of caution and the need to adapt and adopt. Krishnendu, your views, please.
Yeah, I think Mostly, I think Vara has covered it all. I just want to say that, maybe from a slightly more practical perspective and maybe from the agency partner organizations perspective. We used to earlier recruit a lot of young folks who used to call them as research trainees or management trainees or whatever we may want to. I think those, the sheer number of folks you needed, and sometimes we used to probably call them hands and legs and so on and so forth. I think those jobs will come down a bit. But at the same time, like I spoke about, there are a lot of specialized skills which will develop, and there would be new sort of roles and designations and labels that we did not have, not the same RE, SRE, director, and so on and so forth. But you will have probably new roles, and that is something which is going to be the exciting part for me. And at the same time, like Vara said, I think experiment. So I think as researchers, we are taught to be innately curious, and we are taught to keep asking questions. We just need to keep doing that, and probably with the context of looking at AI as an ally and not as a threat or as an enemy. I think together with AI, we can achieve much more than what AI can achieve alone or what humans can achieve alone. So from that perspective, I think if we join forces, I think we have a good future ahead. That's what I'd say.
Sure, Krishnendu. Thank you so much for that word of optimism. I personally, what I'm taking away from this conversation is there's a whole host of information and data that is either being stored and not used, to take what Vara mentioned a few minutes back. And Krishnendu, like you said, our ability to join the dots as human and machine is really why we will continue to be a business, right? I'm pretty excited about the future. Yes, we need to learn new skills. We need to adapt and adopt, and be curious, find new ways of doing things. And I think the ability to create context and triangulate and join the dots is where the big opportunity is, and that's what we all need to be prepared for. It's a personal view, of course. We'll just quickly move on to the next slide. Sandesh, yeah, quick announcement from the MRSI. As many of you know, we have a very popular program called TCP, the Community Program. It's a platform for emerging change makers to actually help and drive real-world impact through research. So be aware, 6 July is the date of closing, and there are a few changes to this round of TCP. The first is the age limit has been extended to 35 years, so the researchers 35 and below can apply. And the other thing that you need to keep in mind is the NGO that you want to partner with, or any organization which is doing grassroots work that you need to partner with, needs to be registered on the Darpan portal. Be aware, apply. We're just about 2 weeks away, and hope we have a very interesting program in 25-26. The next slide, please. Stay connected. You can reach us on LinkedIn, Insta, YouTube, and our own website. So stay connected. If you have questions that we've not answered, check in after a few days. Our panelists will definitely answer them, and you can get to those. Vara and Krishnendu, thanks a lot for enthusiastically supporting MRSI and sharing perhaps information and details that normally we wouldn't expect to see in the public domain. Thank you very much, and hope our participants have taken new directions and insights on how AI will impact our industry and our lives. Thank you so much. Good afternoon. Till we meet again.
Thank you for
next
attending.
Thanks.
Thank you, and thank you, audience, for all your questions. Bye-bye. Good day.